I know the community, I know the people, I know a lot of the police department. It's a dream come true.
10 years ago when you were promoted to commander here, we ran a soundbite with you saying, in 10 years I hope to be police chief. You're taking the job at a time when the 700 officers, short-staffed, serial killer on the loose, people marching in the streets. Is it still your dream job?
Absolutely. I have never been one to shy away from challenges. I am always looking forward to the opportunity to make the department better. I said it in the press conference before. I think Joe Yonner, Chief Yonner, is doing a really good job in managing that dynamic. And come October, I'm looking forward to building stronger relationships with our community and within the police department. This job's not for everyone, obviously. But I know that I'm ready, and that experience in Oxnard, coupled with my 22 years of experience here, has made me ready to take the baton.
Yeah, the 900-pound gorilla in the room for anybody taking a job as a police chief these days is this this criticism, rift, whatever you'd like to call it. What do you say to the people that say, I don't trust the police, or I'm afraid of the police, or I have to talk to my kids about what to do when they encounter a police officer?
What I say to those is what I've said for 28 years. Sit down with us. We are one community. It's not law enforcement and them. It's not neighborhoods and those people in blue, meaning law enforcement. We are so much more similar than we are different. I think everyone in the community wants to feel safe. Do you agree with that?
I think so, yeah.
Basic concept. So if we can get to the basic concept of wanting to feel safe and work through those different dynamics of the differences of opinions that we may have, I am confident that I'm the person to be able to bridge that gap.
So who's to blame for this sort of us versus them mentality? Because honestly, I hear it from both sides. I hear it from law enforcement. I hear it from people in the community.
So who's to blame? I think we're all to blame. And the blame should be borne by all of us also. What I think has happened is we've failed to have conversations like this. How often are we tweeting? How often are we texting? How often are we communicating via email or some type of social media platform? I think our society has lost the ability to have direct connections and conversations. And I'm looking forward to bringing some of that back to the community.
When we look at some of these protesters, we have dueling protests right now in Phoenix in different groups taking different sides. Do you believe that all of these people are really in it because they want to connect with the police and build better relationships, or are there some people out there who may be in it for themselves?
So I'm not going to try to make assumptions about why people are doing what they're doing. I do think it's important as a police department who is serving the community to listen to all those voices regardless of what the underlying motive may be, and work to do two things. One, to make sure people are still allowed to peacefully assemble and protest by nature of our Constitution. And then number two, make sure that they do so safely. We don't condone violence, we don't condone breaking of the laws, but at the same time, all police officers take an oath to uphold the rules and laws of the city, of the state, and of the federal government. So what I find so interesting in law enforcement is how many other professions during a protest, people who are saying bad things about you and your profession, are the police standing around protecting you. There's no other profession who does that. So the protests that happened last week, the protests that will happen tomorrow, you will see the men and women of the Phoenix Police Department standing along the periphery and alongside of people, making sure that that protest is safe.
I did a little reading about your time in Oxnard last night, and you had to lead the department through some controversies, and one of them just about a year after you'd been there, the controversial shooting of a very innocent man. What did you learn from that, first of all? And I think more importantly, do you blame some of the people in Oxnard who say justice has never been done in that case?
So answer those questions. So just to set in context, yes, we did shoot and kill someone who was uninvolved in the incident, but the context of that is it was a rolling gun battle between suspects who did not stop in a vehicle shooting at our officers. Unfortunately for us, there was a situation where we did shoot and kill someone we weren't supposed to. What did I learn? Boy, resiliency, compassion, the ability to really look at policies, procedures, practices, to make some revisions and changes in our agency and really carry that message throughout the police department. I was also one of the few chiefs that you will find to call in an independent review of the incident. It is not often that a police chief is comfortable enough with what, and I'll say she, what she's doing to call in someone to give you a critical look and a critical review of how perhaps you could have done things differently. So it was right to do that. We made a mistake, someone died, but I definitely learned resiliency and leadership in the face of tremendous controversy.
And for those who say this was somebody who was shot 16 times and on its face an innocent person shouldn't die in a situation like that, that police aren't really even allowed to make that mistake or shouldn't be allowed to make that mistake.
So my response to that was, remember the context. It was a rolling gun battle. It wasn't as though police came up and just shot and killed this young man. It was a horrible, horrible tragedy. From a maternal standpoint, really tried to make connections with that family quickly. I am fortunate, though, that once again we owned that mistake. We learned from that mistake. You can look at our policies, procedures, and practices, and you will see that we've made significant changes to include reality-based training. You're right. He shouldn't have died. We've said that the entire time. But sometimes others force our hand in law enforcement, and that rolling gun battle was the forced hand.
I've heard this too, that we sometimes, in certain situations, expect too much from law enforcement officers. Most certainly, we expect a lot from law enforcement officers. We hold them to a higher standard. Do you believe that there are situations that officers are placed in where we expect too much?
I think the community and society has come to believe that law enforcement is the enforcer, the social services person, sometimes a teacher, sometimes a parent, you name it, sometimes the bus or the van or the transporter. Absolutely, I think we expect a lot from our law enforcement officers. But at the same time, we should have high expectations. We are the men and women in blue or brown, depending on which agency you work for, who should be held to a higher standard. We take an oath. This is not just a job, it's a career. But I would like society to understand that we need help. We need help from the mental health system. We need help from the Homeless Commission. We need help with youth. We need help bridging gaps in communications and relationships that we have with the community. So it's not all of ours to bear. I said it earlier, the police is the community and the community is the police. So you can't separate us anymore. We're all one, and we need to sit down at the table and talk about how we are similar rather than how we're different.
There are people in every job and every career that are in it for the right reasons and people that are in it for the wrong reasons. I would say that about my own job and what I do for a living. And certainly there are people in law enforcement who are in it for the right reasons and then the wrong reasons. Most of them that I've met are in it for the most altruistic reasons that you can imagine. But there's always bad apples. What do you do to weed out the bad apples?
So we do what the Phoenix Police Department has done for years and years and years. That is conduct thorough investigations, provide training when necessary. If matters are egregious or criminal matters happen, sometimes those employees have to be terminated. So it's follow suit with that. I do want to loop back around to what you said earlier, though. The vast majority of the men and women in law enforcement and in policing, they jump into this for the right reasons, and that's to protect and serve the community. So I would like to bring to focus more of that rather than some of the bad that you may hear across the country.
Great. I think we're out of time.
Okay, one final thing. You got another final wrap?
Sure. What would you say if you were at that protest tomorrow?
You are welcome to peacefully assemble and protest. We would ask that you not resort to violence. We would ask that you remain safe, and we're here to protect and serve.
One other thing, we've heard a lot about, I know that's two, we've heard a lot about the talk. You know what the talk means.
Yes.
What would you tell parents to tell their kids about police officers?
The same thing that I've told my son. So I have a 22-year-old and a 23-year-old, and everyone says the talk like it's a bad thing to have the talk. The talk is just an acknowledgement of you talking to, having a conversation with law enforcement, you being respectful, you as a parent making sure that the vehicle registration is current, that they have insurance in the car, that they obey the rules of the road, and sometimes it requires a level of civility. Yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. Those are the talks that we've had with our sons and have had since the boys were, and I call them boys, right, since the boys were driving age. So we've had those kind of conversations with their friends also who are in those vehicles too, because quite frankly, there is some authority that is given to law enforcement, while at the same time there is some respect that should be shown to the young men or young people that are in the vehicles who get stopped. So I don't necessarily think that talk is a bad thing. It's my responsibility as a parent to teach my sons how they should respond and react to law enforcement and what they should and shouldn't do.
And that talk should be the same regardless of color?
Well, I think I would have the same conversation with my daughter. I don't have girls, but I would definitely have that same conversation. So.
Okay, great. Thanks. Appreciate it.
No worries. Very nice to meet you.